as I've been out nearly all day. And yeah, here we go with the news. Not news. With the country, which today is Estonia. So yeah, starting off with history as usual. So yeah, there we go. The Estonians are a great people related to the Finns. Can you go away?
I can't show all of your contacts.
I've got people. Can you go away, please, Siri?
What did I do to deserve that?
I love you, Siri. A first century Roman writer named Tacitus mentioned the Estonians and he called them the Esti. Amber was exported from Estonia to other parts of Europe at the time. But for centuries, the tribes of Estonia had little contacts with like Western civilizations like the Romans and all. They traded with the Vikings, and in the 11th and 12th centuries, the Estonians fought the Russians several times, and they reminded. Oh God. Oh God.
I don't really like these arbitrary categories.
Apparently I said your card. I love you, Siri.
I know.
Goodbye, Siri.
It's been a pleasure.
I love you, Siri. In the 11th and 12th century, Estonians fought the Russians several times, and they remained unconquered. But in the 13th century, the Germans eventually conquered what is now Estonia. And the German monks had tried to convert the pagans of the Baltic into Christianity, but they weren't so successful, and they decided to use force to convert the people of Estonia. And in 1212, Albert von Buxhoveden, the Bishop of Riga, founded an order of crusading knights called the Knights of the Sword to subdue the pagans, and in 1208 they essentially invaded Estonia, and Bitul led the Estonians but was killed in battle in 1217. And then the Germans then captured southern Estonia, and then Albert made an agreement with the Danes. And in 1219 the Danes invaded northern Estonia, and he built a fort which the Estonians called Tani Lin. Said history of Cortana and then just disappeared. What is the history of Cortana?
Okay, I found this on the web for what is the history of Cortana.
Do you like Cortana, Siri?
I think the acquisition of information and intelligence by human beings through virtual assistants is a very good thing.
Okay, it's very neutral about Siri, despite being Cortana despite being Apple related. Do you like Cortana?
I think the acquisition of
Same
information
thing.
and intelligence by human beings through virtual assistants is a very good thing.
Is Cortana your girlfriend?
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, it probably isn't. But yeah. Goodbye, Siri.
Nice talking with you.
It's nice talking to you too. In 1237, the Knights of the Sword was assaulted by another crusading order, known as the Teutonic Knights. In the 13th century, Estonia was split in two as the Teutonic Knights ruled southern Estonia, while the Danes ruled the north. And the Germanic people became the ruling class of Estonia, and remained the upper class until the 20th century. However, this common person in Estonia did not accept the situation. In 1343 to 1346, they rebelled in the St. George's Night uprising, but were crushed. And in the 16th century, Sweden and Russia converted Estonia, and in 1558, the Russians invaded Estonia. Well, the Swedes captured Tallinn in 1561 to forestall the Russians, and the Swedes and the Russians also the long and terrible war in Estonia, over Estonia, and the Swedes finally drove out the Russians in 1582. But when the war ended, Estonia recovered, and for a time Estonia kind of prospered on the Swedish rule, as Tartu University was founded in 1632, but in 1689 to 1695 to 1697, Estonia was struck by famine, which killed many people, and in 1710 the plague struck Tallinn, and tens of thousands of people had died. And moreover, Sweden and Russia fought yet another war, and in the Northern War at the beginning of the 18th century. And when the war ended in 1721, the Swedes seceded Estonia to the Russians. In 1816, serfdom was finally abolished in Estonia. And during the 19th century, nationalism was growing like everywhere else, in Estonia as well as the rest of Europe. And in the late 19th century, the Russians tried to Russify Estonia by making the Russian language compulsory in schools. But Estonian language books and newspapers were published, and interest in Estonian culture and history grew. And in 1905, a liberal revolution broke out in Russia, and there was unrest in Estonia, and many houses owned by Germans were burned. And there were also many demonstrations, but the Russian army restored order, and many Estonians were executed or deported at that time. And in March 1917, another revolution broke out. This time the Tsar abdicated, and the Estonians clamoured for independence. But the Russians were not willing to grant complete independence, but they were willing to grant some autonomy. In March 1917, the Russian Parliament agreed to do it. In July 1917, an Estonian Parliament met. But by November of 1917, the Communists seized power in Moscow, and they were not willing to let even Estonians have limited autonomy, and they set up a communist administration in the country. Well, by the end of 1917, the Russian army was collapsing, and the Germans were advancing. In February 1918, the Germans marched into Estonia, and the Russian communists fled, and on the 24th of February 1918, the Estonian Parliament declared Estonia independence. But the next day, Germans entered Tallinn, and they occupied Estonia till the end of the war. And the Germans surrendered to the Western alliances on the 11th of November 1918, and the Russians invaded Estonia, and he captured most of the country. But in January 1919, Estonians fought back under General Laidana, and by 24th of February 1919, the Russians were driven out of Estonia. Meanwhile, the British fleet was sent to Estonia, and the British sailors fought a series of battles with the Russians, and on the 3rd of January 1920, the Russians agreed to ceasefire by the Treaty of Taru. Signed on the 2nd of February 1920, they recognised Estonia as an independent country. And like the rest of the world, Estonia suffered from the depression of the early 30s. In 1934, following a referendum, new constitution was introduced, which increased the power of the president, but reduced the powers of the Estonian parliament. The Riigikogu. And then in October 34, President Konstantin Pats dismissed the Riigikogu and replaced it with a bicameral assembly, and the lower chamber was elected, but the upper chamber was appointed by the president, and the chambers of commerce. And Pats ruled essentially as a dictator until 1938, and under him, the economy did recover somewhat. But in 1938, Pats introduced a new constitution, and he voluntarily gave up some of his powers. But it wasn't really to last, as on June 17th, 1940, so the Russians invaded. And Estonia was absorbed into the Soviet Union, and the communist regime was imposed. And in June 1941, thousands of Estonians were deported to Russia, but shortly afterwards the Germans invaded Russia. And with a quick start they had, and they captured a lot of land quickly. The German rule was extremely brutal, but in the summer of 1944, the Russians invaded Estonia yet again, and by the 17th of September 1944, Hitler ordered all his forces to leave Estonia, and on the same day, a provisional government...
Amber?
Yeah?
Hello.
Hello.
You know, with sort of what's gone on tonight, we didn't know if it was best if perhaps go out tomorrow night instead, if that's alright with you.
Yeah?
We're going to put Clover in the bath, and then instead of going out tonight, we're just going to walk to Sainsbury's and back.
Okay.
So, I don't know, 40 minutes tops. If you don't mind sitting with Clover after the bath, just for all the time it takes to walk to Sainsbury's and back, basically.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay, thank you. Have you tried your shoes on?
Not yet.
Did they even fit?
I will do very soon.
Have you not even touched your foot yet?
Not yet.
Let's find out if they're the right size.
What size did you get them as?
6, I think. I can't remember.
What's 39?
What does that mean?
I have no idea. I was asking you.
Did it say UK or whatever?
No, it just says 39 in a circle.
Oh, what? Has it got a label on it?
No.
What about another shoe? No, not the other one. The one of your other baseball boots. Has that got 39 on it?
No. No, all of them are like kind of set out slightly different. And these ones kind of did have like what they were in different countries and all that.
Can you read it?
I can't really see it considering it's so worn.
Well, I'll tell you what, bring that one to me. Virtually the same size. You can see that much.
Yeah, that one's slightly bigger than that one.
The white one is ever so slightly so that much, which I don't think is going to make that much difference. So, well, it says 39 on it, man.
I didn't quite look at the bottom.
So they're the same.
Yeah.
So if these fit, then
I don't like this fit.
it should be okay.
Getting back to this. I'll do have to do them in parts, so yeah. Let's start with the paragraph again. However, shortly after Germans invaded Russia, at first they were amazingly successful and quickly captured Estonia. The German rule was extremely brutal, but in the summer of 1944 the Russians invaded Estonia yet again, and on the 17th of September 1944 Hitler ordered all his forces to essentially leave Estonia. And on the same day a provisional government was formed under Otto Thier, who lived from 1889 to 1976. Unfortunately, it met for only 5 days, as the Russians captured Tallinn on the 22nd of September 1944, and they dissolved the government. And the Russians then imposed a tyrannical regime on them and the Estonians. And between 1947 and 1952, farming was collectivised and the communist industrialisation took place in Estonia but caused great damage to the environment. Meanwhile, in 1949, thousands of Estonians were deported, and some Estonians fled into the forest and fought the Russians, and became known as the Forest Brothers. But in the late 1980s, communism began to unravel, and Soviet leader Gorbachev introduced policies of glasnost, meaning openness, and perestroika, meaning reconstruction. Once again, the Estonians began to clamour for independence, and in November 1988, the Supreme Soviet, which was kind of like a parliament in Estonia, declared that Soviet law would only apply in Estonia if it agreed to them. And in 1988, Estonia was given some economic autonomy. Events then moved quickly. In March 1991, most of the population voted in favour of independence in a referendum, and on the 19th of August 1991, hardliner communists in Moscow attempted a coup, and on the 20th of August, Estonia was declared its independence. But the coup was defeated, and the Russians recognised Estonian independence on the 6th of September 1991, as the communism was then dismantled in Estonia and replaced by a market economy. Today, Estonia is a small, prosperous country. When they kind of adopted a new constitution in 1992, and the last Russian troops left the country in 1994. Today is small but kind of prosperous and all. In the early years of the 21st century, the economy grew rapidly, but kind of suffered badly during the 2009 recession. However, Estonia recovered and has a bright future. Now, Estonia joined the EU in 2005. Then in 2011, Estonia joined the Euro, and the population stands at somewhere around 1.26 million. So yeah, I'm gonna say end of part 1, and I'll do part 2 when I finish looking after my sister and all. So yeah, bye for now. End of part 1.